Alright guys, another video for Wusik Station, and this time I'm going to talk about modulation. So I have my initial sample player loader here. And I'm going to click on sound sets and change another sound. Okay, so I'm not going to change anything else. I'm just going to go directly to the modulation page. And I'm going to try, let me go back to layers and just lower my frequency on the filter. So now I don't have any sound anymore because it's a very low-end sound. I'm going to go to modulation, click on add new. I'm going to select the modulation envelope 1. So here it is, modulation envelope 1. And then I'm going to select my layer, layer 1. I just have the master layer and the layer 1. And I'll have to find the filter, multi-filter, frequency. You can see that it's doing what the modulation envelope is set here. I'm going to click and release on an empty area of the modulation envelope and select ADSR mode, 0 sustain, and a bit of decay. I also remove a bit of the release. So there we go. And I can also mess up with the velocity a bit. I'm going to put maximum velocity, and I'm going to go back to the layer. And on the amplitude envelope, I'm going to put 0 velocity. So now the velocity is going to control just the filter cutoff and not the volume anymore. I'm going to go back to the modulation, remove a bit of the release. And on the layer, I'm going to also convert the amplitude envelope into an ADSR envelope, so it's easier for me to set up things. And I'm going to put a bit the same values, because this helps not have too many overlapping notes if you're doing a very quickly baseline. A bit of extra resonance. I'm just adding a bit of feedback. It gives a more metallic sound. And I'm going to turn the dual oscillator, add 12 notes up, a bit of fine. I could also go to the modulation here and try the Arpeggiator. But I want to try something different now. Okay, I have this sound, but I want to sequence it. So I'm going to click on the sample player here, and I'm going to convert layer 1 to wave sequencer. Okay. And what I want to do, instead of the modulation envelope velocity, I'm going to remove the velocity from the modulation envelope. And instead, I'm going to use the wave sequencer modulation 1 output to the layer 1 multi-filter frequency. So I'm going to check in here, multiply value. Okay, so now the sequencer modulation 1 output is multiplying the filter frequency. So let's go back to the wave sequencer. And one of these lanes I'm going to use the modulation 1. Let me duplicate the steps. I'm I'll duplicate the steps again. I'm going to edit the fine tuning now. Let me see. Oops, what did I put in here? I'm going to duplicate again and put some variation. So what I have done here on this lane, you can see that there's 4 lanes here. On the last one, the 4th lane, I just right click it and select modulation output. So show mod 1. And on the modulation layer here, I put the wave sequencer modulation 1 to the filter frequency, and I click on this column here to select multiply value instead of just adding the value. So it's just a very simple modulation to frequency, but maybe to add a bit of variation here, let's add another filter. I'm going to add another multi-filter. And let me select parallel processing. So I hear both filters instead of serial processing. Let's change to a band pass. And I'm going to put band pass frequency to 0. So my second filter is on band pass, frequency 0. I'm going to go to modulation, add new, LFO, low frequency oscillator, to layer 1, multi-filter number 2, the second one, frequency. And now here I have my filter. And I'm going to put on sync, so it syncs to the tempo, one by one. And I'm going to put 4 by 1. It's too fast. 8 by 1, 16 by 1. And I can also adjust the minimum and maximum amount of LFO that goes to the filter, so it doesn't go all the way down on the filter. Oh, I forgot one thing. Absolute ABS, so it's going to only output a positive output instead of -1 to 1. It's going to be 0 to 1. That's very important, because the filter is not going to use -1 to 0. It's just going to ignore those values. Let's go to the FX master. I'm going to add a bit of chorus. We're going to add double chorus to the send one and put send one to around half. And I can also add another LFO. So I'm going to click here on 1 by 1, add LFO. So now I have LFO number 2. I'm going to select the waveform random, also positive. Well, yeah, I'm going to leave as positive. And I'm going to add LFO number 2, layer 1, multi-filter 1, frequency. And this time I'm going to add to the filter. But now I have to adjust a bit. Let me adjust. Let's just add a bit of variation. I think it broke my filter. So I have to move this up. Move up before the multiplication. Yeah, it has to be before the multiplication, otherwise it's not going to work. Okay, something is overflowing in the filter for some reason. Let me check. Yeah, it's not working the way I wanted, because it's overflowing the filter. And sometimes that happens. It's because of the feedback and the delay. So I'll probably, if I remove the feedback, yeah, it's working. it's working better now. That's the problem with the feedback. You have to be very careful because sometimes, depending on the changes that you do to the frequency, the feedback can get on the way. So another thing I'm going to adjust here is the level of the second filter because it's a bit too loud. You can adjust that per filter. You have to be careful with the feedback. So, okay, what I'm doing here, I'm doing the LFO2, which is a random LFO. I'm adding to the modulation envelope 1, which is this one, and then I'm multiplying by the wave sequencer modulation 1 output and putting this to the filter 1. This guy here. So this is the frequency here on the below, modulation 1, going to the frequency. And then I added another LFO, which is the LFO1, to the second filter. So it's just a sine wave waveform with a 16:1 tempo sync to the frequency of the filter number 2. Maybe to make it easier, I just could swap the LFOs or the filters to make it easier to understand, but since I have done already this way, I'm not going to mess around with it. But it already gives an idea. And it's nice that you have a master limiter because it's already peaking. Not so much. And I'm using the wave sequencer for that. And just to really overload the sound, I'm going to add another layer to the sample player here. So next sound to new layer. Let me stop playing so I can change the sounds. Delta 2, no, I want something else. Oh, these ones. Transpose. Let me select layer number 2. I almost can't hear layer. You see what happened now? It just crashed because something happened with the menu. I pressed the 2 buttons on my mouse at the same time and the code went a bit crazy. But you can see that even when it crashed, I didn't lose my preset. I just lost the last part that was adding the extra sound. So I'm just going to put new layer. And I'm going to go here and add this guy, transpose 12 notes up. So the anti-crash really is a great thing. The program should be crashing, but this is a huge project and only me doing so. Sometimes people make mistakes, but at least now you are protected. Yeah, it sounds very nice. It's just playing around with the preset now. Another thing, if you don't want to use the wave sequencer, you could also use the modulation sequencer to sequence the filter, but it's not going to have the same effect, so that's why I use the wave sequencer. And you have to be sure that you're using mode 1, because mode 1 works very well for this type of situation, because you have a polyphonic playback of the notes. Because if you want to have a release sound, you can. On Modulation 2, you don't have that option. Okay, that's it. Just a nice video showcasing a few of the modulation options. Really a few, because we have a lot of options. You can see that the anti-crash code works as supposed, and it's a really great addition in my humble opinion. And I think that's it. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.